What if I told you that everything you want in life is waiting for you, just outside your comfort zone? What if the reason you're stuck isn't bad luck, but something far more dangerous? Your own need to stay comfortable. This is a story about a man who had steady work and a predictable life, until the day he realized that predictable meant nothing at all. His name was Samuel, 30 years old, a blacksmith's apprentice in a mountain village. He'd held the same position for 12 years, the same rank, the same duties, the same life. Every morning, Samuel woke at dawn, stoked the forge, hammered nails and horseshoes, repaired broken tools, collected his wages, went home. The work was steady. The master blacksmith was fair. The routine was predictable. But Samuel had a secret. Late at night, when everyone slept, he'd sneak back to the forge, and there, by dying embers, he'd work on something different. Swords. Not ordinary swords, masterwork blades, Damascus steel with patterns like flowing water, hilts wrapped in leather and wire, weapons that were art. Samuel had studied the old techniques, learned from ancient texts, practiced folding metal thousands of times. He was good, better than good. His blades were exceptional, but no one knew, because making swords meant taking risks. It meant moving beyond apprentice work. It meant standing out. And Samuel had learned long ago that standing out was dangerous. So he kept his head down, made his horseshoes, and dreamed in secret. One evening, as Samuel hammered at the forge, his master approached him. "Samuel, you've been with me 12 years. You're skilled, reliable, but you're still an apprentice." Samuel looked up, heart racing. "You could be more, but you'd have to want it. You'd have to push yourself, try new things, take on challenges." Samuel nodded slowly, but inside, fear gripped him. "I'm comfortable here, master. I know my work." The old blacksmith sighed. "That's exactly the problem, lad. Comfort is a slow death for craftsmen, but I won't force you." He walked away, leaving Samuel alone with his hammer and his fear. That night, Samuel sat in his small room, staring at a sword he'd hidden under his bed. Beautiful, perfect, useless, because he was too afraid to show it to anyone. Then, one winter morning, everything collapsed. Samuel arrived at the forge to find it cold, dead. His master sitting on the steps, face pale. "I'm sick, Samuel. My hands shake. I can't work anymore. I'm closing the forge. I'm sorry." Just like that, 12 years, gone. The village had no other forge and no other work for a blacksmith. Samuel's entire life had been built around this one place, and now it was over. For 2 weeks, Samuel did nothing. He sat in his room, ate what little food he had, watched his savings disappear. Other craftsmen offered him labor work, hauling, digging, work that didn't require skill, work that paid almost nothing. He took what he could get, but every day felt like dying slowly. One evening, desperate and broken, Samuel pulled that sword from under his bed. He held it in the firelight, studied the patterns in the steel, the balance, the edge. This was his best work, his truest work, and it had been hiding under his bed for 3 years. Something inside him cracked. Not despair, rage. Rage at himself, for wasting years, for hiding, for choosing comfort over calling. The next morning, Samuel made a decision that terrified him. He took that sword to the village square, set up a small table, and displayed it. People walked by. Some stopped, stared, whispered, "That's Samuel the apprentice. What's he doing?" One merchant approached, examined the blade, ran his finger along the flat. "This is remarkable work. Where did you learn this?" Samuel's voice shook. "I taught myself, at night, For years. How much? Samuel named a price, 3 months of his old wages. The merchant didn't hesitate. Done. Samuel stood there, stunned, as the merchant counted out coins, more money than he'd ever held at once. Can you make more? Samuel looked at his empty hands, then nodded. Yes, I can. But making more meant everything had to change. Samuel rented a tiny workshop, barely more than a shed. He bought basic tools, scrap metal, charcoal for a small forge, and he started working. Alone. No master, no safety net, no guaranteed wage. Just him and the fire. The first 3 months were brutal. Samuel woke before dawn, worked until midnight. His hands blistered and bled, his back ached, his eyes burned from the forge's heat. He made mistakes, ruined blades, wasted expensive materials. Each failure cost money he didn't have. Some days he had nothing to eat but bread and water. He wore the same clothes until they fell apart. He had no time for rest or friends. The other villagers thought he'd lost his mind. Poor Samuel. Should have taken the labor work, at least it's steady. Every night, exhaustion whispered the same thing. Give up, find steady work, this is too hard. But Samuel kept hammering, not because he believed he'd succeed, but because going back to comfort felt like death. 4 months in, Samuel finished his 5th sword. He'd improved with each one. This blade was better than anything he'd made before. He took it to the merchant who'd bought his first sword. The merchant's eyes widened. Samuel, this is extraordinary. How much? Samuel named a higher price. Sold, and I have clients who'll want more. Can you handle commissions? Samuel stood there, trembling, not from fear, from realization. He could do this. He was doing this. Yes, I can handle commissions. But success brought new challenges. Orders came in. 3 swords, then 5, then 10. Samuel worked 16-hour days. The forge never cooled. His workshop filled with unfinished blades. He had to learn new skills, managing time, dealing with difficult clients, pricing his work fairly. Some clients complained, some refused to pay, some demanded impossible things. Samuel wanted to quit 100 times, but he didn't, because he'd already survived the hardest part, the beginning, the doubt, the fear. Now he just had to keep going. One evening, exhausted and covered in soot, Samuel sat outside his workshop. A young boy approached, nervous, poor clothes. "Sir, are you the sword maker?" Samuel nodded. "I want to learn to be a blacksmith, but everyone says there's no future in it anymore." Samuel looked at the boy, saw himself, 12 years younger, full of dreams but paralyzed by fear. There's a future in anything you're willing to fight for. But what if I fail? Samuel smiled, not out of pride, out of hard-won wisdom. You will fail, many times, but that's not the question. The question is, will you keep working anyway? The boy thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, I will. Then come back tomorrow, early. I'll teach you. 18 months after the forge closed, Samuel stood in his workshop. No longer a shed, a real smithy. Proper forge, anvil, tools, and 2 apprentices. The boy who'd asked to learn, and a girl whose father thought blacksmithing was no trade for women. Samuel proved him wrong. He had steady clients, merchants, guards, even a minor lord who'd commissioned a ceremonial blade. Samuel's work had reputation now. When people spoke of fine blades, they mentioned his name. But the real change wasn't the success, it was Samuel himself. He no longer feared hard work. He no longer hid his skills. He no longer needed approval to pursue his craft. He woke with purpose, worked with mastery, slept knowing he'd earned every moment of rest. One afternoon, his old master appeared at the workshop door, older now, weaker, but smiling. "Samuel, I heard what you've built. May I see?" Samuel showed him around, the forge, the finished blades, the apprentices working diligently. The old man's eyes filled with tears. "I waited 12 years for you to find this courage. I'm sorry I closed the forge, but I'm not sorry for what it made you become." Samuel froze. You knew?" "Of course I knew. I saw your night work, saw your skill, but you had to choose it yourself. No one could choose it for you." The old master picked up one of Samuel's swords, studied the craftsmanship. "This is mastery, Samuel, true mastery. Not because you learned it from me, but because you fought for it yourself." He handed the sword back. "I'm proud of you, lad. Prouder than words can say." 2 years after starting his workshop, Samuel was invited to speak at a gathering of craftsmen. Blacksmiths, carpenters, stonemasons, all sharing knowledge. He told them his story, the comfort, the fear, the loss, the discipline. And he ended with this: "You won't grow where you're comfortable. I know because I tried. I spent 12 years hiding my best work because I was too afraid to fail. But comfort isn't safety, it's prison. Growth happens in the fire, in the early mornings when your body begs for rest, in the failures that make you question everything, in the moments you want to quit but don't. Discipline isn't about talent. It's about showing up when it's hard, hammering when your arms ache, building when everyone doubts. That's where you discover what you're truly made of." The room erupted in applause, not because Samuel was special, but because every person there had faced the same choice: comfort or growth, safety or mastery. And they recognized truth when they heard it. So what can we learn from Samuel's story? Comfort is the enemy of mastery. When you're comfortable, you stop growing. You stop pushing your limits. You stop becoming who you could be. The best version of you doesn't live in safety. It lives in the challenge, in the work that demands everything you have and then asks for more. Discipline beats talent every time. Samuel wasn't the most talented blacksmith, but he was the most disciplined. He showed up every day. He worked when he was tired. He learned from every failure. That's what separates masters from everyone else. Not gifts, not luck, discipline. Fear of judgment keeps more people stuck than actual failure. Samuel didn't fail for 12 years. He succeeded at hiding, at playing small, at keeping his best work secret because he feared what others would think. Real failure is letting fear make your decisions. It's dying with your gifts still locked inside. Your life won't change until you risk everything. Samuel didn't transform because he got lucky. He transformed because he lost everything and chose to build something new. Growth requires risk. It demands that you bet on yourself when no one else will. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Mastery is uncomfortable. It should be. That discomfort is proof you're pushing beyond your limits. You're forging something new. You're becoming someone stronger. And yes, you'll fail. You'll waste time, money, materials. You'll work for months with nothing to show for it. But you know what's worse? Dying with your masterwork still hidden under your bed. With your greatest gifts locked away because you were too comfortable to risk sharing them. So ask yourself, what are you hiding? What skill have you been practicing in secret? What version of yourself are you too afraid to show the world? Because here's the thing, the world needs what you're hiding. But more than that, you need to stop hiding. Not for applause, not for approval, but because living small when you're meant for mastery is the cruelest thing you can do to yourself. Samuel's story isn't unique. Thousands face the same choice every day. The difference is what they do with it. Some choose comfort, and 20 years later, they're still in the same place. Same routine, same regrets, same masterwork hidden away. Others choose discipline. They light the forge. They risk everything. They hammer away in the darkness. They build something real with their own hands. Not because they're fearless, but because they decided that mastery was worth more than comfort. This is your reminder. You won't grow where you're comfortable. So step into the fire. Embrace the heat. Discipline yourself and forge something extraordinary. Not overnight, not easily, but permanently. Because on the other side of discipline is the master you've always been meant to become. The craftsman, the creator, the one who doesn't hide. And they're waiting for you. The question is, will you light the forge and start hammering?